to ensure the safety of figure as prominent as Donald Trump. Employing top-tier security measures and cutting-edge technology is absolutely essential. It's well known that vast sums of money are funneled into safeguarding him, covering everything from high-tech surveillance systems to highly skilled security personnel. Despite such significant investments, there have been unexpected security lapses in the past that left Trump exposed. But how did these vulnerabilities arise? And what steps are being taken now to prevent them? Let's break it down and explore how his security team is being prepared to avoid similar problems in the future. How does Trump's protection team operate? With Trump recently resuming his role as president, his security detail has received a major overhaul, including improvements to the Secret Service protection assigned to him. Additionally, Trump has enlisted a new personal bodyguard known for his exceptional expertise and an impressive background. This isn't just any ordinary individual in a suit. He's a former Secret Service operative with a background rich in expertise, encompassing martial arts, self-defense strategies, and advanced methods for handling high-risk situations. His primary mission? To remain by Trump's side, foresee possible dangers, and shield him from harm. On the surface, the job of a personal bodyguard might appear simple. Safeguard Trump at all costs. However, there's much more complexity to it. His proficiency lies in foreseeing threats before they materialize and reacting instantly in tense, high-pressure moments. While the broader Secret Service team concentrates on securing the surrounding area, his role demands sharp precision, emphasizing close-range protection where agility and expertise are crucial. Among his key assets are his martial arts capabilities, particularly in Krav Maga and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. These disciplines equip him with the ability to take down and neutralize nearby threats efficiently, without resorting to firearms. This becomes especially important in crowded settings where the use of a firearm could endanger innocent people nearby. To avoid such risks, he has honed methods to neutralize threats quickly and effectively, ensuring Trump's safety without escalating the situation. While his physical capabilities are undoubtedly remarkable, what truly makes this bodyguard exceptional is his unwavering attentiveness. He is far more than someone who simply reacts to danger. He operates in a constant state of heightened awareness, scanning his environment, interpreting body language, and identifying anything that feels out of the ordinary. Whether Trump is attending a rally, a meeting, or enjoying a casual meal, the bodyguard remains in high alert, evaluating the area, pinpointing escape routes, and carefully observing everyone in proximity. His mission is to establish an invisible yet impenetrable shield around Trump, a layer of protection built on presence and meticulous planning. When it comes to public events, his responsibilities begin well before Trump's arrival. In the days leading up to an appearance, he collaborates with local law enforcement, other security personnel, and Secret Service agents to guarantee the site is secure. This preparation includes a thorough review of the building structure, access points, and any weak spots that could be exploited. He collaborates extensively with event personnel to define security boundaries and direct crowd movements, guaranteeing that Trump's route remains secure and unobstructed. For the bodyguard, even the smallest details are significant. He is fully aware of where every door leads, who has authorized access to restricted zones, and which locations might expose the president to unnecessary visibility or risks. Managing crowds is another crucial aspect of his responsibilities. In public settings, Trump's personal security guard ensures a protective distance is maintained between Trump and the crowd, subtly orchestrating the flow of people to prevent anyone from coming too near. This protective barrier often goes unnoticed by most, yet it plays an integral role in his overall strategy. It enables the bodyguard to closely monitor everyone within Trump's vicinity, scanning for any individuals who might present a potential threat or attempt to breach security. This proactive method focuses on mitigating risks discreetly and efficiently, without calling attention to the protective measures in place. The role of the bodyguard extends beyond public events. However, behind closed doors, away from prying eyes and cameras, some of the most vital aspects of his duties quietly unfold. For example, he plays a critical role in organizing routes whenever Trump is on the move. When travel is on the agenda, this bodyguard works closely with drivers, designing secure paths and identifying alternative options. This process involves assessing potential traffic problems and steering clear of high-risk zones. In urgent situations, these contingency routes can be crucial, allowing Trump to relocate swiftly and securely. Such meticulous planning guarantees that Trump's travel remains safe and efficient, regardless of the circumstances or destination. In Trump's personal life, the bodyguard remains equally committed to his protective responsibilities. At any of Trump's residences, he oversees entry points, manages surveillance systems, and strictly regulates who is allowed on the premises. All staff members, from housekeepers to chefs, undergo detailed background checks to eliminate potential risks. Within these private properties, the bodyguard also focuses on safeguarding sensitive information, diligently ensuring that details about Trump's whereabouts, travel plans, and other confidential matters are shielded from adversaries seeking to exploit them. Unauthorized attempts to acquire this information are met with prompt and decisive measures, sending a strong and unwavering message. While privacy remains a top priority, a bodyguard's effectiveness relies heavily on their physical capabilities. For this reason, Trump's bodyguard prioritizes peak physical fitness, adhering to a strict training and exercise regimen. This focus isn't about appearance, but rather operational readiness. In high-pressure scenarios, He may be required to chase someone on foot, intervene in an altercation, or manage a physical confrontation with virtually no warning. Staying in optimal physical condition allows him to execute these actions swiftly and efficiently, ensuring his endurance and reaction time align with his exceptional tactical skills. His dedication to fitness plays a crucial role in his overall performance, providing a vital advantage in situations where speed, strength, and agility are essential. Beyond traditional security concerns, his expertise also encompasses emergency preparedness, equipping him to handle a diverse range of crises, from fires and medical emergencies to unexpected disturbances. Should an evacuation be necessary, he possesses the knowledge to quickly navigate optimal escape routes, safeguarding Trump and others from potential danger. In the event of a medical crisis, he stands prepared to work seamlessly with paramedics and emergency responders, ensuring Trump receives prompt medical attention. His comprehensive approach to security guarantees he's equipped to handle any situation, whether it's a direct threat or a natural catastrophe. Flexibility also lies at the heart of his abilities. Trump's newest bodyguard is adept at tailoring his protective strategies to match various settings. Whether it's a public event, a campaign rally, or an intimate gathering, each scenario presents its own set of challenges, and he adjusts his methods accordingly. At a large rally, his focus might revolve around regulating entry points and surveying the crowd for potential dangers. During a private meeting, his attention could shift to observing the behaviors of individuals in the room, maintaining a discreet presence while staying vigilant. Each situation calls for a distinctive combination of skills, and he excels at making swift adjustments to his strategy. Though his presence may largely go unnoticed by the public, the secure spaces he establishes allow Trump to perform his presidential duties without unnecessary distractions. Rising costs of protecting Trump. The expenses associated with safeguarding President-elect Donald Trump in Palm Beach County are increasing at a pace faster than anyone had anticipated. Following his electoral victory, protecting Trump has cost the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office close to $200,000 a day. This entails much more than a handful of officers on duty. It's a comprehensive initiative involving deputies, motorcade support, and heightened security measures at his Mar-a-Lago property. Since September, the expenses have surged to double their earlier figures, prompting questions among taxpayers and officials about who will ultimately bear these costs and how much higher they might climb. Sheriff Rick Bradshaw noted that Trump's security was already operating at a presidential standard even prior to his inauguration. While Secret Service agents are responsible for his primary protection, the burden on local law enforcement is significant. They handle tasks like crowd control, monitoring entry points, and securing his travel routes. Sheriff Bradshaw emphasized that the expense mirrors the intensity of the security effort, with a large share devoted to personnel over time. Safeguarding a high-profile figure like Trump demands impeccable thoroughness, leaving no room for error. Collaborating with the Secret Service, the Sheriff's Office ensures that every conceivable threat is accounted for. This isn't a typical security assignment. There have already been 2 reported attempts on Trump's life this year. According to Professor David Thomas of Florida Gulf Coast University, a former law enforcement officer and authority on policing, no department wants a significant incident occurring under its watch. This explains why local agencies are prepared to allocate additional funds to prevent any security breaches. It's not merely a matter of increasing personnel on site. Each shift demands the presence of highly trained individuals skilled in threat management, securing expansive areas, and maintaining control in unpredictable situations. Such expertise comes at a significant cost, particularly as deputies log extensive overtime hours to accommodate Trump's intense schedule. The $200,000 daily expense isn't a ballpark figure. It reflects detailed planning and the essential services required to ensure Trump's protection. The largest portion of this expenditure stems from the overtime pay for additional deputies, who are central to the operation. From motorcade escorts to the security teams at Mar-a-Lago, extra staff are crucial. Frequently, deputies endure successive shifts, with every overtime hour contributing to the rapidly escalating costs. Whenever Trump moves between Mar-a-Lago and his golf course, a procession consisting of various law enforcement vehicles escorts him. Palm Beach County Fire Rescue also shoulders expenses tied to these motorcades, having spent close to $43,000 from January to September. Each journey requires additional deputies to manage road safety, oversee intersections, regulate traffic, and remain vigilant for any unusual activity. Furthermore, maintaining security at Mar-a-Lago represents another noteworthy financial commitment. Since Trump's election, the estate has been under round-the-clock monitoring, with deputies guarding entry and exit points, securing the grounds, and managing access for employees and visitors. Bradshaw also noted an enhancement in security at Trump International Golf Club, where the former president often spends his downtime. Protecting a president-elect at a public golf course is far from simple, relying on deputies positioned across the property and patrolling nearby locations. Coordinating security for a prominent figure like Trump requires collaboration between multiple agencies. Palm Beach County officials have closely partnered with local agencies from neighboring areas. For example, the town of Palm Beach has reportedly spent approximately $3,600 daily on security measures related to Trump since July. These additional expenses are creating even greater strain on the local budget. With Trump returning to the White House, his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida is likely to host foreign dignitaries and other prominent guests. Accommodating these visitors requires heightened security measures, extra staffing, and meticulous planning to ensure everything proceeds seamlessly. At present, all of these costs are being drawn from the county's budget, leaving local taxpayers to foot the $200,000 daily bill. Palm Beach County Mayor Maria Sachs is displeased with this burden and is actively pursuing federal reimbursement. Sachs has reached out to Congress through letters, requesting compensation for the millions already spent since Trump's electoral victory. Sheriff Bradshaw remains optimistic that Congress will eventually cover these expenses, as they've done for other incoming presidents in the past. He points out that once Trump formally takes office, the spending package will likely be approved to include presidential security, ensuring the county is fully reimbursed for its outlays. In essence, while the financial weight currently rests on Palm Beach County taxpayers, the Sheriff's Department is confident that federal assistance will arrive in due time. The Secret Service is heavily involved in ensuring Trump's safety, though their primary responsibility centers on personal protection. Their duties include guarding him directly and overseeing interactions in his immediate vicinity. On the other hand, broader security operations, such as organizing motorcades, safeguarding his properties, and controlling public access, are predominantly managed by local agencies like the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. This separation of duties results in Palm Beach County shouldering a substantial financial burden, despite Trump having a dedicated Secret Service team. The cost of protecting Trump is undeniably steep, but the financial strain of presidential security isn't unique to this area. Whenever a prominent figure like a president-elect spends extended time in one location, local governments are often hit with a sharp increase in security expenditures. During Trump's presidency, other cities faced similar challenges. For instance, the NYPD estimated that providing security for Trump during his visits to Trump Tower cost nearly $500,000 daily. What's unique now is that Trump is expected to make Mar-a-Lago his primary residence, which will likely lead to even higher ongoing expenses. These costs could escalate further if the estate becomes a hub for meetings with foreign leaders, government officials, or other high-profile guests. Each time a prominent guest arrives, security measures intensify further, potentially pushing the daily expenses past the current $200,000 mark. Even with these substantial costs, local leaders remain determined to pursue federal funding. Mayor Sachs plans to submit yet another letter to Congress, aimed at expediting the federal reimbursement process. Bradshaw remains optimistic that the government will eventually step in with financial aid, but for now, Palm Beach County must shoulder the expense. As Trump readies for his return to Washington, D.C., his time spent in Palm Beach County, split between official duties and leisure at Mar-a-Lago, is expected to remain extensive, if not grow further, adding to the county's financial burden. These mounting costs are likely to increase further, especially as county officials prepare for frequent visits from international dignitaries and other high-profile figures, necessitating additional security arrangements, logistical planning, and coordination. The Secret Service has designated funds specifically for his protection. Safeguarding a sitting U.S. president is a monumental task with significant financial implications. For decades, the Secret Service has led the effort to ensure the protection of the commander-in-chief, leaving many to wonder just how great is the price of this responsibility. During Donald Trump's presidency, the expenses tied to ensuring the safety of not just him, but his entire family surged dramatically. The U.S. Secret Service plays a vital role in protecting not only the president, but also other prominent individuals, such as the vice president, visiting foreign dignitaries, and even candidates running for president. Over the past 10 years, the Secret Service's budget has seen noteworthy growth. For the 2023 fiscal year, the agency operated with a budget of approximately $3 billion, marking a substantial rise compared to previous years. Of this, a majority, roughly $2.7 billion, accounting for about 87% of the overall budget, was allocated to operations and support. This funding is primarily directed toward protective services, encompassing measures like securing the president at the White House, facilitating motorcades, and planning overseas trips. Within this allocation, $1.2 billion is specifically earmarked for protective operations, focusing on safeguarding the president, vice president, and their families through the agency's dedicated division. This group ensures 24/7 security coverage regardless of the risk levels. Additionally, around $82.5 million of the budget is designated for preventative security measures to counter potential threats. This segment highlights the need to counter emerging dangers, such as chemical, biological, radiological, and even cyber attacks. In an era where technology advances and threats constantly evolve, safeguarding the president involves much more than just physical protection. Additionally, $94.6 million is allocated for protective intelligence, aimed at identifying and analyzing potential dangers to the president. The goal is to neutralize risks before they have a chance to materialize, whether they're posed by individuals or groups intent on harm. For large-scale events, such as national conventions or significant presidential campaigns, the Secret Service plays a critical role in providing security, with $73.3 million dedicated to these protective measures. During election seasons, security efforts intensify as more agents are assigned to protect both the president and candidates, particularly during public speeches before sizable audiences. When Donald Trump assumed the presidency, security concerns extended beyond himself to also include his family. According to the former president's act, past presidents, along with their spouses and children under 16, are entitled to lifelong Secret Service protection. However, Trump expanded these measures by requesting security for his adult children, Ivanka, Donald Jr., Eric, Tiffany, and their spouses during his term in office. Donald Trump's request for extended Secret Service protection for all members of his family had a substantial effect on the agency's finances, driven by frequent travel both within the U.S. and abroad. The expense of providing security for the Trump family experienced a sharp rise. According to a report from the U.S. Government Accountability Office, Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump alone racked up approximately $396,000 in Secret Service expenses after just 3 international trips in early 2017. These trips were group endeavors, typically including spouses and others, to destinations such as the Dominican Republic, Uruguay, and the United Arab Emirates. These excursions represented a significant portion of the overall security costs. Between 2017 and 2019, the Trump family embarked on over 4,500 trips that required full Secret Service support. Protecting the family during these travels cost tens of millions of dollars, factoring in the sheer number of trips and the extensive security measures required. One particularly notable location during Trump's presidency was his Palm Beach, Florida estate, Mar-a-Lago. This property played a central role in his time in office and became infamous for the high taxpayer expense associated with his visits. The Secret Service incurred approximately $1.3 million per trip to Mar-a-Lago. Notably, during just 1 month in 2017, Trump's travel-related costs amounted to an astonishing $13.6 million. These expenses weren't limited to the Secret Service alone, but also included funds from the Department of Defense and various rental charges. Over his presidency, Trump visited Mar-a-Lago an additional 22 times. If each trip maintained the estimated $1.3 million price tag, that would total an extra $28 million solely from Mar-a-Lago visits. This figure excludes the expenses tied to securing Trump Tower in New York or his frequent international travels. Although the Secret Service has seen its budget grow over the years, some lawmakers have expressed concerns about whether the funding is adequate to address the increasing demands that came with the Trump presidency. For instance, in 2017, Congress approved an additional $60 million to help cover the rising costs of presidential travel. By 2023, this budget had grown even more, with Congress allocating an extra $211 million, partially to address the heightened travel demands and enhance security needs for Trump and his family. Despite these increases, there are persistent debates regarding the agency's role. Some experts suggest that responsibilities like investigating financial crimes, such as counterfeiting and identity theft, might be more appropriately handled by other federal agencies, allowing the Secret Service to fully concentrate on protective duties. Safeguarding the president involves far more than simply increasing the number of agents. It requires meticulous planning and the strategic allocation of resources. Within the Protective Operations Division, there are approximately 3,671 employees, accounting for roughly 44% of the entire Secret Service staff. These professionals handle a wide range of responsibilities, such as operating the motorcade and providing security for the president at rallies, public appearances, and during travel. For large-scale events, additional agents, sometimes numbering in the thousands, are brought in to manage crowds and bolster surveillance efforts. However, the most critical work often takes place behind the scenes. Advanced protective measures include state-of-the-art technologies like explosive detection systems and sophisticated cybersecurity protocols, all designed to shield the president and their family from potential dangers. Although the general public might not notice these operations, they're fundamentally important to ensuring every event and engagement is conducted without disruption. The expenses tied to presidential protection are significant, especially for individuals like Donald Trump, whose lifestyle and extensive family necessitated elevated security measures. The Secret Service's budget, which has steadily grown, underscores that effective protection goes beyond adding personnel. It involves integrating advanced technology, managing travel logistics, and maintaining crisis response teams on constant standby. The overall cost of securing Trump, his family, and implementing the required safety precautions during his term in office remains a topic likely to attract continued scrutiny. As debates continue regarding the extent of the Secret Service's duties, it appears that the agency's funding will remain a contentious issue for the foreseeable future. Security failings in regard to Donald Trump highlight a history of near misses, overlooked details, and significant missteps that have even shaken the confidence of the Secret Service itself. These lapses, which have occurred at both public events and private venues, underscore weak points in the agency's safety protocols, leaving openings for potential dangers. One particularly alarming event took place in Butler, Pennsylvania, where gunmen managed to access a rooftop less than 500 feet from the stage where Trump was speaking. This glaring security lapse occurred because no one ensured the American Glass Research Building was properly secured, despite its clear vantage point overlooking the event. The shooter had ample opportunity to position himself, a scenario that could have been entirely avoided with adequate attention to the rooftop as a potential threat. This was critical because having a rooftop within shooting range isn't merely a convenience for security, it's a necessity. Any buildings with possible vantage points must be closely observed. As a CNN analyst noted, the location of this building should have necessitated enhanced security measures, like station guards or active surveillance. However, this lapse in security paved the way for the shooter to carry out their attack. Despite meticulous planning and coordination, there were evident challenges in aligning the efforts of local law enforcement and the Secret Service. At the Butler rally, for example, local police were tasked with securing the outer perimeter, which included keeping an eye on the American Glass Research Building. Still, the division of responsibilities between federal agents and local officers remained unclear. Although local police identified the suspect and even tried to act, they were hindered by jurisdictional confusion and the absence of a synchronized communication system with the Secret Service. This wasn't an isolated incident. Similar problems of unclear roles and responsibilities have surfaced at other events, creating gaps in security that can allow threats to go unnoticed. The result was a troubling failure to respond swiftly during a critical moment when every second mattered. Security flaws go beyond the absence of physical presence. On the same day as the Pennsylvania rally, security personnel noticed someone behaving suspiciously near the magnetometers. While their behavior raised red flags, local officers only conducted a brief inquiry before radioing a general warning to keep watch on the individual. Unfortunately, this vague instruction did not ensure proper surveillance of the person, who later turned out to be the shooter. By the time the danger became evident to authorities, it was already too late. Security teams were too slow in confirming his movements. The lag in monitoring his actions, combined with how effortlessly he gained rooftop access, highlighted failures in both communication and immediate response strategies. On several occasions, uncertainty about how to execute surveillance protocols contributed to these lapses. For instance, during the Butler rally, members of the Butler County Emergency Services Unit were stationed on the second floor of a nearby building, concentrating on watching the crowd instead of focusing on the rooftop, where the shooter eventually took position. The officers had not been instructed to monitor for possible threats originating from elevated positions, which allowed the shooter to establish himself on the rooftop undetected. This oversight prompts an important question. Why wasn't surveillance of higher ground treated as a priority? Instead, the Secret Service concentrated on observing the crowd, leaving themselves vulnerable to attacks from above. With no specific surveillance duties assigned, elevated areas went neglected, putting Trump at potential risk. After the Pennsylvania shooting incident, a round of blame shifting occurred between the Secret Service and local police forces. At first, Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle held local law enforcement accountable for securing the outer perimeter, which included the structure the shooter used. However, Cheadle later admitted that the Secret Service, being ultimately responsible for Trump's safety, should have ensured these precautions were implemented. This blame game exposed a larger problem regarding clarity in the chain of command and accountability. When multiple agencies work together on security, there must be unambiguous definitions of their respective roles. In this instance, the unclear distribution of responsibilities resulted in a critical security oversight. Just 2 months later, another major security breach occurred near Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida. A man armed with a rifle was found concealed in dense shrubbery only a few hundred yards from Trump's location. This incident further highlighted potential weaknesses in perimeter defenses and the effectiveness of threat detection measures. Positioned within range, the gunman's weapon was partially visible through the bushes near Trump, who was unwinding on the golf course at the time. Local authorities spotted the rifle's barrel protruding from the vegetation during a routine security patrol. The event emphasized the importance of comprehensive perimeter sweeps, particularly on expansive properties with diverse terrain. Increasing the frequency of patrols along with utilizing advanced surveillance systems might have allowed security teams to detect the intruder sooner, potentially averting the close call. On some occasions, bystanders or attendees have identified dangers before security personnel. For instance, at the Pennsylvania rally, members of the crowd noticed the gunman on a rooftop nearly 2 minutes before he opened fire. When bystanders attempted to notify nearby officers, law enforcement couldn't locate the individual in time to stop the shots from being fired. This incident highlights the vital role the public can play in recognizing and addressing security threats. However, without efficient channels for promptly reporting such concerns, crucial information can become delayed or overlooked, as happened in this situation. A recurring problem in these scenarios has been dependence on conventional methods rather than leveraging modern technology. While the Secret Service employs advanced equipment, they have not consistently used aerial surveillance tools, such as drones or specialized cameras, during events involving high-profile figures like Trump. Following the Pennsylvania incident, an independent review recommended that overhead surveillance technology be mandatory at all future rallies. These tools would allow security teams to monitor elevated areas more effectively, spotting unusual behavior that might otherwise go unnoticed. Although the Secret Service has since announced plans to consider this approach, their slow integration of such technologies remains a weak point. Perhaps even more concerning, a recent internal report pointed to underlying systemic and cultural challenges within the organization. It identified a lack of critical thinking and a culture in which agents felt discouraged from voicing security concerns. These perspectives can result in a sense of complacency, which, in critical moments, may hinder agents from recognizing potential dangers. The report ultimately advised overhauling leadership to promote a culture that values proactivity and transparency within the agency. These events underscore the pressing need for comprehensive security strategies that leave no potential threat unchecked. When security forces, law enforcement, and public event planners fail to collaborate and communicate effectively, The result is a fragmented approach that leaves gaps for risks to emerge. Strengthening surveillance measures, prioritizing elevated vantage points through cutting-edge technology, and fostering an environment of proactive risk assessment are necessary measures for the Secret Service to adopt. Each incident has illuminated shortcomings in protection plans, emphasizing the need for a sweeping overhaul across the agency. By implementing a more structured chain of command and employing advanced monitoring systems, future rallies and public appearances can be made significantly safer for Trump and other prominent figures. In a bold 2020 Addy campaign, BlackRock, widely recognized for producing firearms hefty enough to likely make your grandmother feel like an action hero, showcased Thomas Crooks, a notorious figure known as Trump's assailant. Fast forward to 2024, and Crooks made an unwelcome return, attempting to assassinate Trump during a rally in Pennsylvania, using none other than a BlackRock-manufactured firearm. While significant gaps remain in understanding the connection between Crooks and BlackRock, this video will guide you through how the company unwittingly became a training ground for someone with designs on a president's life. The origin of BlackRock Firearms dates back to the late 1980s, when Larry Fink and his partners established the company, initially positioning it as a firm specializing in risk management and fixed-income asset management services. Over time, BlackRock has expanded into a financial giant, managing assets exceeding $9 trillion as of 2021. This immense total establishes it as the world's largest asset manager, granting it an extraordinary level of power in influencing global markets. Among the more contentious facets of BlackRock's investment approach is its financial involvement in the firearms industry, where it holds the status of the top shareholder in America's major gun manufacturers. The history of BlackRock's stakes in leading gun companies is a narrative woven with calculated financial decisions, alongside the rise of passive investment tools like index funds and ETFs. To fully grasp the scale of BlackRock's participation, it's essential to examine the details of its equity holdings and the reactions these investments triggered from the public and political sectors. BlackRock's notable ownership in gunmakers became widely known in 2018, a year punctuated by increased gun control advocacy and activism within the U.S. This was also the year of the tragic Parkland school shooting in February, which reignited intense debates nationwide regarding firearm legislation and corporate accountability. Amid this heightened scrutiny, reports surfaced highlighting BlackRock's substantial shareholdings in prominent firearm manufacturers. Among the key enterprises in BlackRock's investment portfolio is Sturm, Ruger & Company, a major player in the U.S. firearms industry. As of 2018, BlackRock held roughly an 11% ownership stake in Sturm, Ruger & Company. This investment positioned BlackRock as the leading shareholder of the company, granting it considerable sway over its operations and key decisions. Within BlackRock's firearm portfolio are some major players, with Smith & Wesson Brands Incorporated standing out as a star example. With a legacy as storied as a miner's dream during the gold rush, Smith & Wesson is revered for its iconic revolvers. Over time, the company expanded its offerings to encompass a broad array of firearms. By investing in American Outdoor Brand Corporation, Smith & Wesson's parent company, BlackRock demonstrated its interest extends beyond the mere spin of a revolver chamber. Back in 2018, BlackRock held an impressive 8% stake in American Outdoor Brands Corporation, cementing its position as one of the company's most influential investors. Another heavyweight in BlackRock's firearm investments is Vista Outdoor Incorporated. This entity not only specializes in ammunition manufacturing, but is also a dominant force in the outdoor recreation and sporting goods industry. Vista Outdoor commands an impressive portfolio, including the renowned Savage Arms firearm brand. By owning a significant share in Vista Outdoor, BlackRock secures a prime spot in what could be likened to a firearm enthusiast paradise, further emphasizing its significant commitment to the firearms sector. Let's address the issue that's impossible to overlook. The firearms produced by companies in which BlackRock holds significant investments have become the preferred choice for individuals operating under the radar. Renowned for their accuracy, dependability, and ease of use, these weapons are the top selection for those seeking to carry out assassinations efficiently and with minimal attention. It's almost as if these firearms come with an unspoken guarantee. Whether the buyer is a hunter, a competitive shooter, or someone with far darker motives, there's something in BlackRock's diverse portfolio to meet their needs. For instance, the young man who recently attempted to assassinate Trump reportedly utilized a rifle tied to manufacturers backed by BlackRock investments. This individual, Thomas Matthew Crooks, grew up in the quiet suburb of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. Located roughly an hour south of Butler, Bethel Park is characterized by its peaceful ambience and strong community ties. Thomas was raised in a humble household alongside his father and spent his early years in this serene environment. He attended Bethel Park High School, where he completed his studies in 2022, though his school years were largely defined by feelings of detachment and social isolation. Peers often portrayed him as a reserved and introverted individual, someone who largely preferred solitude. Throughout high school, Thomas frequently became a target for bullying, with his classmates' inability to understand or accept him deepening his feelings of loneliness. Nevertheless, no notable incidents or warning signs suggested he might have violent tendencies. Educators and school staff alike characterized him as a quiet student who avoided trouble and largely stayed under the radar. At home, Thomas lived with his father, with whom he shared a close and influential relationship. The AR-style rifle utilized in the shooting belonged to his father, who believed Thomas had gone to practice at a gun range on the day of the rally. This assumption wasn't out of the ordinary, as Thomas had demonstrated an early interest in firearms and outdoor hobbies. While often subdued, Thomas was not entirely disconnected from the world around him. According to Pennsylvania voter records, he was registered as a Republican. Despite this, he appeared largely inactive in political circles and maintained a very limited presence on social media.